Alright, continuing on with the list. At number 40, a classic of 80s horror, Nightmare on Elm Street. It was really tough to choose between Nightmare on Elm Street and Hellraiser. I'm a huge Clive Barker fan. Out of loyalty to Clive, I wanted to include Hellraiser. It would be in my top 200 list if this was a top 200 list. But for staying power, I think Nightmare on Elm Street beats it. I think Nightmare on Elm Street is the superior 80s horror movie. And it's a really scary movie. I mean, a lot of people know the sequels. Freddy starts to crack wise. Freddy starts to get kind of silly. And that's not the Freddy Krueger you have in the first Nightmare on Elm Street movie. In the first one, he is terrifying. And, you know, a lot of people criticize, for instance, the remake. I thought the remake did a decent job of making him scary again. I think, and I don't mean to go off on a tangent and talk about the remake because I'm talking about the original here. The remake is nowhere near as good as the original. But let me just take a moment and talk about the remake just because here's what I love about it. It shows what I love about the original. Freddy Krueger has the staying power of a Dracula, of a Frankenstein's monster. He has entered that pantheon of characters to where now other actors are interpreting him. There will be more remake. I hope, I really hope that 20 years from now there'll be another remake. There'll be, you know, keep the character alive, keep him going. I would love to see Freddy and Jason and Michael Myers and Pinhead and Chucky and Candyman and all those, and Leatherface and all those Michael Myers great characters continue on forever. I want to see them in that pantheon. So, everybody's probably seen Nightmare on Elm Street. If you haven't, and you have got the stomach for a really scary movie, check out Nightmare on Elm Street. Number 39, let's lighten the mood. Airplane. Airplane is... it's funny. I debated whether Naked Gun should be on the list. Naked Gun, I think, is the funnier movie over Airplane for just like laughs per minute. But Airplane is not just funny, but it's so smart when you watch it. I mean, it is the jokes. I can still I've been watching this movie for 30 years. I can still watch it and pick up something that I didn't notice, something in the background, or something maybe I didn't get until I, you know, had learned enough about what life was like in 1980 to go, oh, I get that joke now. Leslie Nielsen at his funniest, even though we all love Frank Drebin in Police Squad and in Naked Gun, he's so deadpan here. He's playing the character so serious that it's hysterical. And so Airplane, definitely one of the funniest movies ever made, one of the smartest comedies ever made. Go check it out if you haven't. All right, we've got, at number 38, we've got another tie. There's no way to pick between these two movies. So, Alien and Aliens. Not Alien 3, not Alien Resurrection for sure. But the first two movies are science fiction classics, they're horror classics, they are two of the scariest movies ever made. Sigourney Weaver is one of the best heroes in any film, in any genre. You know, and it can't choose between what Ridley Scott did in the first and what James Cameron did in the second because they're so different. And they both work equally brilliantly. You got to give James Cameron credit for taking. He could have just done the second one where, okay, Ripley's on another ship and there's another alien and that's it. And he said, no, 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 fuck that. Let's do a planet full of aliens and bring in the Marines and have, it just all go to hell. Brilliant idea to up the ante for the sequel, which makes it one of the best sequels ever, by the way. That's when they say you got to raise the bar for a sequel. Aliens did it right. Um, but you can't overlook the first movie. The first movie is a gothic horror classic, and it's so creepy. And they managed to take a spaceship and turn it into a haunted house, and that's just brilliant. And shows the genius of Ridley Scott, and is why I am excited for Prometheus this summer, to see Ridley Scott going back to that genre and setting up the entire franchise. So those two, Alien and Aliens, tied. We're going to move up to number 37, another scary classic from the 80s, Poltergeist. Poltergeist is an amazing haunted house movie. One of the best haunted house movies ever made. It's so, and it's not subtle. I mean, like, The Haunting is a very subtle haunted house movie, and brilliant in its way. But what I love about Poltergeist is it's just balls to the wall, in your face horror. And yet it does feel like I never had a problem with my kids watching it. It always felt like a kids movie to me. Like it's on my list of movies like Gremlins and Goonies that I watched when I was a kid and never had a problem with. It's like a horror movie for the whole family, but it's still scary. So, Poltergeist, number 37. Number 36, we're going classic here. We're going old school. Maltese Falcon, Humphrey Bogart. Bogart is awesome. And choosing a Bogart movie for this list was hard. I was never, oddly enough, and I might have a lot of people criticize me for this, I was never a huge fan of Casablanca. I like Casablanca. I don't love it the way that a lot of people do. And I love The Big Sleep. And Caine Mutiny. There's a lot of great Bogart movies. To me, Maltese Falcon is the best. It's Bogart as just a tough as nails, no compromises detective. It is the quintessential film noir movie. And to me is just a guy's movie through and through. This is maybe a movie that maybe women won't enjoy as much as guys, because Bogart is the guy we all want to be. I think to this day, Bogart is the guy we all want to be. And the plot is, so you've got all the great supporting characters, and the plot really, if you look at it, in some ways it doesn't go anywhere. It's all about the journey that you're going on with Bogart. And it's just an amazing movie, amazing classic detective movie. Let's lighten the mood up again with number 35, Groundhog Day. Bill Murray may be an asshole, and yes, I do think Bill Murray is kind of an asshole in real life, but Bill Murray is just about the funniest guy in the history of movies. I would venture to say maybe number one to me, maybe the funniest. And between Groundhog Day and Scrooged and Stripes, and a movie that may appear higher up on our list, Groundhog Day is maybe the movie where he really took his persona and encapsulated it into the perfect character for him to play, in a way that I don't think his roles nowadays really do. I think there's sort of more like Lost in Translation and Broken Flowers kind of parts that he does now, and the parts in the Wes Anderson movies where he's just kind of depressed. I don't like that Bill Murray as much. I like the sarcastic, smart-ass Bill Murray who ends up learning a lesson. Groundhog Day is one of the best comedies of all time. Certainly one of the best of the 90s. And, it's a movie to really live your life by. I mean, it's aside from being just gut-bustingly funny, it's a movie to live your life by. You learn lessons watching it. So, if you haven't checked that out, go see it. Number 34, we're going classic again. Jaws. Jaws is a movie it took me a long time to appreciate because when I was growing up, it was such a legendary film that you almost kind of dismiss it. And I didn't really come to appreciate it until I was in my 20s. And because it's not about the shark, is what you have to finally realize. Like the sequels that's where they went wrong. They were all about the shark. This is about the men on the ship hunting the shark. And really, I know that the story goes that Spielberg couldn't get the shark to work, and that's why you didn't see the shark very much. Thank God, because what he did with just the POV shots and you see a glimpse here and there of the shark, and then when you finally do see the whole thing, it's really terrifying because you realize this isn't a monster. This is something that could happen to you. This is a creature that is out there, and if you personally got in its way, it would bite you in half and swallow you. And it's just a really scary movie and a really great adventure movie. Not really a horror movie, I think. It's a great adventure movie. Number 33, we do have a good horror movie, though. Again, going old school. The Invisible Man. James Whale, completely underrated film from Universal's classic monster library. Better than Dracula, better than The Wolf Man, better than The Creature from the Black Lagoon. Invisible Man is a masterpiece and gives us one of the best villains of all time with Claude Rains playing the Invisible Man. And the story is, I mean, we all know the story. Scientist turns himself invisible, goes crazy. And it's done with this sense of humor. It's done with where there's genuinely creepy moments. And the effects for the time were groundbreaking. And a lot of you, I bet, haven't seen it. So I'm not going to say anything more about it, but it is highly recommended by me. Maybe one of the most highly recommended movies on this list because I bet a bunch of you haven't seen this movie. Go out and see it. It is not a boring old black and white horror movie. It is fantastic. And again, that's going to apply to number 32, another tie. We got Road to Morocco and Road to Rio. Road to Morocco is the classic Bob Hope, Bing Crosby movie that ends up on all the lists of the 100 greatest comedies. Road to Rio is my personal favorite from that series. There were about 5 or 6 from that series. And Road to Rio is my favorite. It is so underrated and so funny. Just funny in a way that movies today don't know how to be funny like that. And Road to Morocco is about its equal, but I think Road to Rio is funnier. It's just basically, it's Bob Hope and Bing Crosby playing a couple of lowlifes who get in over their head in a far-off country, and they meet a girl. It's always Dorothy Lamour. And they sing some songs, and they have a good time, and it's fun for everybody. That's the kind of movie that I miss, and I wish they would make movies like that again. Number 31, another man's man movie. Tombstone. Tombstone. Kurt Russell, Val Kilmer, their 2 best performances. Tombstone is the best Western ever made. Ever made. A lot of classic Western lovers, and I know you're out there on this site, might argue that point with me and say, well, John Wayne or The Searchers or whatever. I think Tombstone is the best. It's a very fictionalized version of the life of Wyatt Earp. And it is... You never get bored with this movie. It is a really long movie. It's never boring. There are no slow spots to it. It is just great actors doing what great actors do. So go check it out if you haven't seen it.